Sequential unboxing. Sequential unboxing. Sequential unboxing. Oh yeah, and else again. Comix. Went over to Cobalt Comix. They were open, thank God. Shout out, Cobalt Comics. Shout out, Vision Comics and Oddities. I think I spent a total of a lot of money. So, yeah, like $108 altogether. Word. Money. I be that Sequential Geek. What is up? Welcome to my channel. I had a hell of a week. My back was killing me. I figured why make a bad situation worse, bringing all that to my last day of the week. So I called in sick Friday, and it was needed. Definitely, I didn't sleep in, so went out to Cobalt Comics. They were open, and shout out to Cobalt Comics. I had a fucking great time there. It was the best way to start the day, really. You know, Brandon, the owner, shout out to Cobalt Comics, the owner, proprietor, Brandon. He is fucking one of the nicest down-to-earth persons there. It was his birthday, so this guy was like extra chipper, I guess. It was the 14th. Happy birthday. It was also the 3 or 4 year anniversary of the store. It's out here on Parker Road. If you take Parker North, it's just past Arapahoe, just east of, on the east side of Parker Road, in like a strip mall type of area. You can't miss it. There'll be lots of street lights, intersection lights to kind of notify ahead of time. It kind of gets remote for a minute out in Parker. Yo, I tell you, this guy, shout out to Brandon. Happy birthday, man. Thank you so much. Thank you for the empanadas. This woman came by, her and her daughter. Her daughter was in college, and they were selling some empanadas, some home-cooked food. He bought a bunch and shared some, and I was just eating some empanadas, shooting the shit. Good people over at Cobalt Comics. It's got a 10% discount here in October. And yeah, it's in Aurora, just east of Denver. Please check it out. I had a great time there, and let's see what I got. Cloak and Dagger, #1 4-issue limited series. So in the early 80s, I don't think like the whole limited series was big in the 60s and 70s. So it started off with like, I don't know about, there might have been like a 2-issue limited series here. I don't recall. I know like the first one mainly is the Marvel Superhero Contest of Champions that was out in 1982. And then you had Vision and Scarlet Witch limited series. That was 4 issues. That was also out in 1982. All right. Then in 1983, you got this 4-issue limited series, Cloak and Dagger. They are not mutants, by the way. That whole craze happened when Marvel was trying to brand themselves, when they get this whole boatload of speculators and just comic book collectors in general were just growing. Fortunately, a large chunk was due to the speculation market, but it wasn't all that. There were people coming in that were growing up with cartoons or with the merchandise and were just into that graphic storytelling. People reading Piers Anthony, Tolkien, Raymond E. Feist, playing Dungeons and Dragons, getting the Gary Gygax going on. We're starting to check out comics, right? That was the stuff that was all big in the late 70s, early 80s. So, yeah, comics. People going in, checking out some stores, and Marvel started branding themselves as unique as possible. So what did they have that was the most unique, right? Mutants. So they started saying, putting mutants on issues, and they started rebooting titles, right? Sound familiar? A lot of first issues. And so I think eventually like Cloak and Dagger, I think after this, you know, they had their ongoing series. I think they only lasted like 11 issues or something. All right, so Cloak and Dagger's first appearance was back in 1982, right? And that was what Ed Hannigan that was doing the art, the beloved Al Milgrom doing inks. So Bill Mantlo carried on the Cloak and Dagger story with this 4-issue limited series. Rick Leonardi doing the art, Terry Austin doing the inks, and this is just one of the more grittier street aspects of Cloak and Dagger. They weren't associated with some dark X-Men team brand, or they weren't associated with the Secret Avengers since they weren't registered with S.H.I.E.L.D. or they weren't associated with any type of umbrella organization. They were on their own. They ran away from home to begin with. They were a very much more grittier aspect of the street and more grittier aspect of noir. And they were experimented on, right? I think they were basically desperate for money, and so they let themselves be experimented on. It was that drug that had caused their powers. At least that was the first narrative. That was the first story, at least. Okay. So Bill Mantlo starts off with this pair of superheroes here that end up killing a drug dealer, and they go to a church to seek asylum. Their first ongoing series only lasted 11 issues, and that was also written by Bill Mantlo. And that one has them go into a porn shop to break up this child exploitation ring that's going on there. So, serious themes that, damn, people have got to be brought to light. And, you can't have a story that is based on something very sensitive, touching, and then have it be overwhelmed with metrics and key performance indicators and brand identity driven marketing that is driving decisions on the editorial and writing creative level. That would be in poor taste. So, one aspect of having a large magazine anthology where you could kind of go back to like the Marvel Knights, but if it's like a magazine size with reprints of old stories with new concepts, it'll allow for new concepts. It'll be like that different format kind of allows people to quote unquote try new things because it's in a new different type of physical size, right? If you get it thick, like a Wired magazine or type size, or just even thicker than that, obviously it allows people to accept ads more too. I just think that physical copies are not dead. I just think that shit's just done it so much that it's going to allow a boom for a new print market to come up. So back to homegrown, right? To the nitty gritty. Cloak and Dagger, issue number 1. It's a newsstand. What did I pay for it? Paid $8. There you go. Classic. The Dark Forest Dimension, whatever that is, that Cloak Tyrone taps into. Uncanny X-Men number 205. I got a Alpha Flight number 33 coming in the mail. First appearance of Lady Deathstrike. Originally Yuriko Oyama. First appeared in Daredevil number 197. And became the love interest of Logan. So it's this issue that came out, cover date May 1986. Barry Windsor Smith cover. He did the interiors, illustrations and inks, total BWS joint. May 1986, as I was saying, but I wanted to point out the date in particular for this issue because it was Alpha Flight issue number 33 that came out in April 1986. And that was a Bill Mantlo story, actually. And it was that story that came out here in issue 205 where Spiral from the Mojoverse uses her tech to enhance Lady Deathstrike to enhance Yuriko Oyama, hook her up with them finger blades, as well as the Reavers. So there was some part in there that they noted in Comic Find that reminded me of when they asked if it was going to be permanent, and Spiral just sort of like didn't give him a straight answer, but thought like, "What do you expect when you make a deal with the devil?" Nice. So I think with the whole new genre that can open up with street level stories, noir, detective, mystery, that Marvel phenomena, if you want to put into it, that whole Marvel paranormal aspect, superhero aspect. So you're gonna bring in stories with Wolverine, Daredevil. That's inevitable that you're gonna end up with Yuriko Oyama on the scene, and here she is. This is her story about how she became Lady Deathstrike, and then she appears. Her first appearance is off Flight 33. Yeah, I'm gonna go with under $10. Do not recall. So, X-Men Alpha Flight, X-Men and Alpha Flight. This is issue number 2. I reviewed a year and a couple of months ago. Issue number 1. This is one of my favorite stories. I love that Paul Smith art, and buying this issue number 2 here ended up evening things out, right? As far as having one copy of direct and newsstand, but then I realized no, I actually need to get a direct edition of issue number 1. It's to be continued. I love this story. This is just a 2-part story. It's a 2-issue limited series. This is out of 1985, Chris Claremont story, and it has, though, an appearance with those gods, those like we're talking like origin of universe type beings. They feed off of Ragnarok. They're called like those who sit above in shadow, and Loki makes a deal with them where he wants to ascend his level of godhood. Essentially, he makes a deal with those who sit above in shadow, creates this pillar of light. And the interesting aspect of this story is how the consequence of these people going to this pillar of light, right, makes everybody hot, makes everybody like 6 feet tall, and they become an enhanced version of what they believe in, what they're into, to the extent where they lose their motivation, their sense of imagination and innovation, dreams. They're kind of locked in to this enhanced reality where they are catered to, which I find very interesting. The whole social media aspect of things, and how that is mirrored in this 2-issue limited series. I think I'm kind of grasping with that. Let me know what you think. But even when they start to introduce all the characters, the architects, the botanists, the scientists the engineers that are in this plane that has to land out in the middle of the tundra, where they end up finding that pillar of light and creating this little palace of theirs that they were secluding themselves, isolating themselves in. Even when they were initially showing those characters, just the way that they were all going off on their own point of view, like a one-sided conversation with those people that, even in some good-natured ways, that were still one-sided. And it's interesting. Let me know what you think on that aspect. So I got this issue right here. What did I pay? $6. I would definitely say this is a VF plus. I mean, I checked it out. It was in beautiful condition. All right. I just love this artwork. Just, Alpha Flight's got some colorful team members. Sasquatch. Plus you got these covers here that are wrap around for both issues. And each one is like double sized. And like I said in my review about a year ago, there's a lot of significant moments that happen in these stories. Rachel Summers from that alternate future, this is the first time she meets her parents. A little bit too much on the angst for me, with her going back and forth, and all those issues in the X-Men with whether she should tell her parents who she is. It's also revealed in this story how they find out that they're going to have a son, right? So that totally throws off her expectations that they were going to have a kid. That would be her, Rachel Summers. So she finds out that she's in some alternate past and they're not going to have her as a child. They're not going to end up parenting Rachel Summers. They're going to end up parenting Nathaniel Summers. Cable. But that's Madeline Pryor, right? That's not Jean Grey. I don't know if Rachel Summers' mom was actually Jean Grey. I don't feel like looking that up. Yeah, forgot. Rachel Grey. So Rachel Grey, her first appearance is the X-Men 141, Days of Future Past. Rachel Ann Grey Summers. So Jean Grey was Rachel Grey's mother. So I don't know why she's tripping on this Madeline Pryor. Yeah, clarify that too for me, please. Too much angst with Rachel Grey. And that was nice, chilling at that shop, Cobalt Comics. Kind of let me vent, gain some hope. Heroes for Hope. This is a bucket list comic. I always wanted to get a nice copy, newsstand copy, and I found one. What did I pay? This was $8. Yeah. I ain't out to do no Vulture Club. Lately, I respect the Vulture Club, the thrift buys. Right now, feel like a meter ticking, a clock ticking. I got some stuff that I need to put in storage. And then whatever I don't get. So they essentially are fighting this ancient god famine, like misery. And they're trying to defeat it. And then they realize that it'll always be there, but the best way is not to actually go after it. Fight the god is just to help others. So Rogue tries to absorb everybody's powers in an attempt to fight this demon, this ancient god. And you've got every single artist in here. Who's in here? Name it. They're in here. And the god ends up one by one with the X-Men and ends up kind of bringing about their worst fears. And I think Rogue was the one left that didn't have that type of psychic attack. She ends up getting overpowered by this demon god, and then when she does, it wakes up the rest of the X-Men, and they end up banishing it for the moment type of deal. But it's a promo that came out at the same time as Live Aid and the whole We Are the World. And just remember that story just being real fun read. And it was written as a proceeds from this comic book are being donated to famine relief and recovery in Africa. It's a one-shot. Now, the core story, the whole idea for Heroes for Hope is a plot that was based on a story created by Chris Claremont, Ann Neseni, Bernie Wrightson, and Jim Starlin. They were the ones that originally conceived this one shot. They were the ones that went to Jim Shooter and just motivated management to create this comic, actually. The first story is a Stan Lee story. I think the first couple are. But, I mean, you know, you've got Stephen King in there, Alan Moore, Harlan Ellison, Joe Duffy, Bruce Jones, George Martin, Archie Goodwin, Ed Bryant, Louise Simonson, Jim Starlin. So those are the writers for Heroes and Hope for Hope. Each one was given a few pages. You know, for the artists, there's a Richard Corbin story actually, and there's Mike Kaluta, Frank Miller, Herb Trimp, Paul Galassi, Howard Chaykin, Jim Starlin, John Byrne, Bernie Wrightson. I mean, yeah, you name it. Actually, you know, I don't think there is Jack Kirby in this story, but this story did come out in December, cover date 1985's. And yeah, that is an Art Adams cover. So here we got the B cover. I'm not sure if that is available in newsstand. It's the Barry Windsor Smith cover to the second issue of the Grant Morrison run. I've got several copies of this. This was in the $2 back issue bin, so I think I lucked out with this one. And this is when Cassandra Nova unleashes those enhanced sentinels on the world. This is a significant story because it's kind of a gripping artwork around that time of 9/11 attacks NYC. Really amazing Frank Quitely art. And yeah, here we are introduced to Professor Xavier's evil twin sister, Cassandra Nova. They also have that plot device introduced in here for the secondary mutation. It's Cassandra Nova that gave Emma Frost her diamond skin. She made a deal with the devil. August 2001, by the way. It's a nice entry point, by the way. E is for extinction, don't you think? If you're new to comics, right away you're going to get hit with the new look. You know, the outfits and everything just kind of lets the reader know that depending on what decade you're going to read a particular title, you're going to get that particular type of look, that style, that way. Some of them are an agenda, and some of them are a message. So what else I got here? Yeah, issue number 3. It says here that the artist George Perez injured his hand doing this cover. So this is cover date December 2003. Actually came out in November 2003 is when it hit the stands physically. And that's issue 3 of 4. A Kurt Busiek scripted story where the Grand Master makes a deal with that entity that was part of basically behind Infinite Crisis, Krona. where Krona's team was the Avengers, and then Grandmaster's team was the DC heroes. They each took the heroes from their other dimension. And Grandmaster's team won, but they ended up. At the end of this comic, there's a battle that has every single hero that has ever been a member of the JLA and Avengers. Shit. Galactus is basically almost drained by this world devourer, Krona, from the DC universe. It says here under Comic Find, Galactus is saved by the Grand Master, who uses his remaining strength to merge the two universes together into a single reality. And to wrap it up over at Cobalt Comics, just before I was on my way out, I found this. Justice League International, Annual number 2. Newsstand. Story by Giffen and DeMatteis. It's Keith Giffen. And the art and the interior is Bill Willingham with Joe Rubinstein doing the inks. And that cover is actually by Kerry Gamble with Joe Rubinstein doing the inks. July 1988 cover date. Now, after Cobalt Comics, I went over to, of course, Vision Comics and Oddities. I wanted to check them out on an early Friday afternoon since I'm usually there on a weekend. And they were bringing in some new display cases. I don't know the details. I know they each bought their own display case. It's really badass. Jason, he's like into the coffin comics, Lady Death, but he makes like bongs, glasswork as well, and latex. And Deirdre's got her lamps used for like lamps that she refurbishes, repaints, adds like skeletons, pieces of human skeleton in the base. I'm not describing this very well, but the shop is called Vision Comics and Oddities. So the new display cases that they're bringing in there just add a little bit more taste to the store. It's been just over a year now since I've been going over there to all these stores, really. And just watching them make little improvements here and there and getting to know the shop owners has been great. It's nice watching something that you appreciate, have respect for, grow and improve itself like that. So, yeah, if you get a chance, check out both those shops. Start over at Vision Comics and Oddities in the Southwest. Make your way to downtown Denver, and then head east over to Cobalt Comics in Aurora. Over at Vision Comics and Oddities, right when you come in there, they got the newly purchased, newly acquired rows of long boxes that they got there, and this is what I got. Just wanted to start getting something fun for myself, not necessarily a bucket list item or a must-have or something that I've always wanted to get throughout the years. I found this just randomly, and it's for $7. Marvel Team Up Annual number 3. Yeah, that is a Frank Miller cover. Joe Rubinstein, once again, doing the inks. It's a Roger Stern story with Herb Trimp doing the artwork. And I dig it because it's got a Machine Man appearance. Early Machine Man, right? Pretty much. He came out in 1977. Oh yeah, my man Machine Man came out 2001, A Space Odyssey. July cover date 1977. Some Jack Kirby goodness. let's see, Machine Man was originally called X-51, right? By that Dr. Stack that created him. And all the other robots went nuts, and then Dr. Stack. And before that, though, he gave him the name Aaron Stack, and raised him like a son. That's okay, because once again, to be continued. You're like, what do you mean to be continued? What do you mean? What do you mean to be continued? I'll tell you. I'll let you know. Don't you worry. By the way, that Marvel Team Up Annual number 3, yeah, that's November 1980 cover date. Yeah. And another annual, X-Men Annual number 5, October 1981 cover date. Actually hit the stands in July. That is a Chris Claremont story with Brent Anderson doing the illustrations, Bob McLeod doing the inks. I thought this was cool because you got the 2 properties right here that everybody's psyched to be fully transferred over from Fox into the MCU. The Fantastic Four and the X-Men. I think this is Archon backstory. I think Storm at one point had a thing with him. It's like from this alternate, like Thundar-like dimension. Archon. Like Sue Storm gets kidnapped and she's gone to this world that Archon is from, and I don't know. It's an annual. It's some one-shot, pretty much standalone story, I'd say. Out of 1981. Got that for $12. Let's continue on with a little bit more X-Men here. So yeah. There's 205 I got from the other store. If I see a 205, even if it's a direct, I just think that this character is going to blow up. And for now, at least, because I'm not going to have the luxury of storing stuff, having access to it right offhand, and just amassing stuff and filling box after box. I think I've filled in the past month. In the past year and 2 months that I've been here, I think like 10 short boxes. Swear to God. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to be doing that when I go back to Michigan. So we got ourselves, that's what I got for $3. John Romita art, Chris Claremont story. We got ourselves Freedom Force. It's like the government sponsored version of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, essentially. It's like Mystique's version of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. And they put a whooping down on the X-Men for a minute in this story. It's great battle scene. I just remember reading this. It was totally fun. It's a really nice copy of a newsstand variant, if you want to call it a variant. 1986. Apparently it was 50% newsstand, 50% direct this time. But Jessica Drew shows up. She's like working for the government. She's telling Freedom Force, since they don't have any papers to officially arrest the X-Men, that they need to kick rocks. And so yeah, I guess you could say government bureaucracy saved the day. Oh, I wanted to note, by the way, being from the Midwest myself, they say mayhem in Middle America. In case you're wondering, it's Chi-Town, Chicago. What next? Got these next Todd McFarlane comics for $4 a piece. So basically we've got this voodoo priestess, sorceress named Calypso. Her first appearance was in 1980, Amazing Spider-Man number 209. And she's possessed the lizard essentially here. This 5-issue story arc. Now, I know I mentioned it before in the past. If you see this symbol here, it's Curtis Company. This is one of the few times where I don't know if it's the few times, but this is an instance here where you've got Curtis Company, yet obviously no newsstand. I can't believe I bought a book after like 1983 in direct, especially from the early 90s, but just something about Todd McFarlane. This guy's a living legend. I just figured, fuck it. If the condition of these books wasn't so nice, I might have thought twice, but I gotta cut my fingernails. I mean, do you see? What was that movie? Mindhunter was the first movie. Inagata Navita, baby. Do you see? South Park did a spoof off of it. Red Dragon. It's a great book. So here's Mary Jane from 1991. This is when Todd McFarlane was saying he wanted to modernize how she looked. Here she goes. There you go. All right. This is in fantastic shape, and keep it that way. Yeah, that's Spider-Man issue number 5 right there. Doesn't that totally remind you of that other Steve Ditko cover? I think it's like the last Steve Ditko book he did. Alright, so I'm just following some advice here that I got, and I believe it. Collect those early Todd McFarlane comics. If you can get it in really nice pristine condition like these, then I'm getting them for $4 a piece, just under $5. You know, I can't say I have like a serious attachment for these comics, more so for his artwork. And I could see myself possibly taking these with me, eventually use them for something to trade with, essentially maybe get some store credits in place. I don't see me like holding on to these, like long term as far as like in my main vault, my main stash. But these are really cool. Like I'm psyched to have these. Also got this, the Marvel Tales, once again, another McFarlane title to look out for. Early McFarlane as the Marvel Tales covers he was doing. But this story, these first issues of Spider-Man, it wasn't just Todd McFarlane art, it was his writing as well. He was driving the whole book. He was running the whole show. Spider-Man. So now Marvel Tales, by the way, you got that first Marvel Comics, like Marvel that came out, had the Human Torch on the cover. And I think that ran from, that name changed to Marvel Mystery Comics from issue 2 to 92. So I'm looking up here at Comic Vine. So with issue 93, the series was changed into Marvel Tales after Timely Comics stopped publishing superhero comics and started focusing on horror and mystery tales. The series lasted until issue 159. So they were initially called Marvel Mystery Comics, but then they were focusing on superheroes. So then when they were focusing on horror and mystery, they changed the name from Marvel Mystery Comics to Marvel Tales. And that's the first volume of Marvel Tales. And this came out, cover date August 1989. Oh, yeah. Gil Kane did the pencils. John Romita Sr. doing the inks. And that is a Stan Lee story. The reprint of Amazing Spider-Man number 91. You know, I got this Marvel Tales Classic. I'm psyched that they had this one available. There were a lot that were beat up. I didn't just buy it because it was a newsstand. I was getting picky about the condition. I'm not just gonna grab any newsstand, but you just look at that cover. You know, you got Spider-Man webbing up a criminal, the spotlight on him. That is iconic. That is classic. That's timeless. You know, you're not even gonna know anything about that book, but you're gonna see a Todd McFarlane classic-looking Spider-Man cover in this condition. Hell yeah, somebody's gonna want to buy this later. If you want to get like that, sure. You know, invest in what you know and what you enjoy, though, as well. Shit. Definitely collect what you enjoy. If you just want to spend something because you enjoy it, it's part of what you collect. That's your thing. More power to you. But if you're disappointed that something that you collect doesn't accrue in value, well, then there's a difference between just buying something that you like and enjoy and then versus buying something that you know about, that you have invested some research in. This, shit, it's a no-brainer. Marvel Tales Classic Spider-Man. Beautiful cover. You know, hold up. I do want to see something. Verify here. That spine is nice as I think it is. Not bad for a newsstand coming out of the turn of the decade. Alright, looks like there might be a little... Well, no, it doesn't feel brittle. Let's say the pages look a little wavy. We got a fold right there. Alright. That's okay. Yeah, this is great. Great deal. Fair, stellar deal. It's fair for the price. It did have a high print run still, though. We're talking late 80s, but it's Toddy McFarlane, man. It's Todd McFitty, man. It's Todd McFitty, yo. Todd McFitty. Todd McFitty Fairlane, yo, man. I mean, shit, you can't go wrong. Yeah, I mean, it just feels like a confident, solid buy. And I really do believe that just with all this brand identity and people worrying more about stuff complying with a look for licensing, once again, you can have something like a magazine size anthology that just because it's different, it allows people to accept a little bit more out of box stories. So you can kind of let the brand grow into different demographics instead of expecting new demographics to go into something with a constrained just whole environment, like a direct market comic shop. I mean, it's just not going to happen. You're not going to gain new readers through a direct market comic shop. Thankfully, the types of shops have changed a lot. Like shelving's gotten a lot nicer. Just floors and smells of places have been a lot nicer. I don't mind that. I love that newsprint smell. I love that musty smell. Checking out garage sales or OG shops. That's not what I'm talking about. Just talking about somebody taking a shower on a regular basis or changing their kitty litter at their shop on a regular basis type of deal. But yeah, shops have definitely improved, just display cases, just like I was going at before. But I just don't think that you're going to increase demographics with a place that calls itself a comic book shop, but it mainly has either statuettes, combination of statuettes, board games, and Magic the Gathering tournaments. It's not really a comic book shop. So the reason that I point out all this like out of box thinking stuff is just look at the success of Mcfarlane, right? Todd McFitty. If we have more outlets to have people do more out of box thinking, that would be great. I mean, look what happened though when they got the chance to run with the Gauntlet. It wasn't really the most creative stuff, and I think Image had its own little renaissance that happened. I think around like 2012 to like 2015, 17, that 5-year span. But now Image and Boom are just more movie scripts their storyboards being adapted into comic books. It's more of like a pitch to be optioned with those publishers. Yeah, 3 more comics out of Vision Comics and Oddities right here. $4. The Savage Return of Dracula. So that newsstand issue right there came out, cover date January 1993. Apparently it hit the stands physically in 1992, November. But that's a reprint of The Tomb of Dracula #1, the first issue out of April 1972, cover date. Jerry Conway story, Gene Colan art. So that was Gene Colan, the artist here, that went on to co-create Blade and issue 10 of Tomb of Dracula with writer Marv Wolfman. Blade, which ended up going on having its Wesley Snipes trilogy thus far. The Blade 2 movie adaptation. That's a David Goyer screenplay adapted by Steve Gerber with Alberto Ponticelli interior pencils. Tim Bradstreet cover. May 2002 cover date. The official adaptation. $9. Yeah, let's check this out. If I'm going to spend $9 on this, let me show y'all what I got. So it's a little bit more thicker, square bound. Wow, this is nice. This has never been opened. And yes, you guessed it. The last issue I got is Fantasy Masterpieces starring the Silver Surfer. Issue #1, direct out of 1979. John Buscema or Sal Buscema? Who's the daddy? It's John Buscema. John Buscema, who went also on later to do the artwork for that Masters of Evil Siege on the Avengers Mansion around issue like 270. Yup. One of my favorite Avengers stories from my original collecting era in the 80s. Originally a Stan Lee John Buscema story, it's a reprint of Silver Surfer 1 out of 1968, retelling the origin of the Silver Surfer. I think this reprint actually has some pages missing from the original story. It's another thing I gotta verify here. Fantasy Masterpieces Volume 2 are reprints of Silver Surfer Volume 1, 1 through 14. The first 11 issues are not complete reprints. Issues 1 through 7 are missing 4 pages each. And so on. This is from comicfind.com. And this is, Stan Lee script with John Buscema story. Yo, $12. December 1979 cover date. Another that's kind of like a more square bound. Yeah, there's a fold in the back. All right. I need that when I bought it. Look at that. Norrin Rad from Zenla. Do not be alarmed. I am him who was Norrin Rad. He sacrifices himself for his planet. That is so, Shalabal. Never shall we meet again. Fantasy Masterpieces #1. Stan Lee, John Buscema. So that was Friday. Checked some mail throughout the week. Got a whole lot of online buys. And then some. All right. Online buy #1. Machine Man #1. That's right. I said to be determined, to be continued. So I got Machine Man #1. That's Very Fine Plus for $25. It's the best offer. Same thing with this from the same seller. They got that one for $28. All the other robots went nuts. Dr. Stack ended up connecting with one of them. Robot X-51. He gave it the name Aaron. Aaron Stack became known as Mr. Machine in the last 3 issues of 2001: A Space Odyssey, and then Marvel lost the license to the rights to publish 2001: A Space Odyssey. They kept the character Machine Man. So then after 2001: A Space Odyssey ended with issue number 10, you've got a year later, in cover date April 1978, you've got Machine Man #1, Jack Kirby, the same artist writer that invented Machine Man, carried over the character for the first 10 issues. Excuse me, the first 9 issues. And who else to follow up Jack Kirby than Steve Ditko, who did the interiors for issues 10 through 19. 19 here is the last issue of Machine Man, the first volume of Machine Man. The covers of which were mainly Steve Ditko, up until the last few issues, where you had like Rich Buckler did issue number 18, which is a second appearance of Alpha Flight. I have another copy now of Machine Man number 18. That's my second copy. And I got that for $28. It's another online buy. And you've got basically this 10 issues that were remaining. Issues 10 through 19. And the first 5 issues of that run, after Jack Kirby was no longer working on Machine Man, the script was by Marv Wolfman. And then Tom DeFalco took over Machine Man for issues 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. And then Tom DeFalco, a few years after that, I think it was in 1984. Yeah, it was 1984. That's when Tom DeFalco ended up writing that futuristic Machine Man story with Barry Windsor Smith doing the art. Had the first appearance of Arno Stark, Iron Man 2020, and that 4-issue limited series. So, yeah, I got my Machine Man run down. I am fully satisfied with my Machine Man run of comics, especially with these really nice quality condition Steve Ditko buys that I got. Definitely a Jack Kirby fan, as I'm sure you can tell from many of my vids, especially from August. But just hearing people talking about Steve Ditko and Comic Book Historians, that YouTube channel, they've done some interviews with Steve, with actually Mark Ditko. Says he's born 1959, the nephew of the great Steve Ditko. So he shares a bunch of stories just about how friendly and open Steve Ditko was with him, and a lot of other folks working in the business with Steve Ditko dispel the whole cold, alienating Steve Ditko image. They say he's definitely opinionated. He'll definitely speak his mind. So yeah, I've always dug Machine Man. I always liked him. Just the whole concept with him. It's one of those. Yeah, I wasn't saying at the time, this can only happen in comics. Everyone loves Machine Man. It's just zany, man. It's just fucking fun. That joke that I made in an earlier vid recently when I was talking about Machine Man becoming CGI Man. Well, I just recently saw Alita Battle Angel, and there's already been CGI woman and CGI man and CGI person in that movie. Fucking badass. It's just some great fight scenes, amazing graphics, but yeah, these people that are fully robotic outside of just like skin. Oh man, shout out to Aaron Stark. So yeah, Marvel not only lost the rights to publish 2001: A Space Odyssey, but then there was some copyright infringement with the name Mr. Machine Man. So then they also had to remove the name Mr. Machine Man with just Machine Man as of 1979 here. We got ourselves a second appearance of Alpha Flight. A pricey second appearance of Alpha Flight. And the Frank Miller issue. So Tom DeFalco finishing off that Machine run, carrying on his success with Machine Man to a 4-issue limited series a couple years after this. Oh, check out this other item I got in the mail. This is so cool. I have a strictly cover by here. A-Force, issue number 1, the cosplay cover. This is out of 2016. Near mint copy I got, including shipping, for 15 bucks. Nice. Such a dope ass cover. Alright, so what was I saying about to be determined? To be continued with that Daredevil, that Wolverine, that Yuriko Oyama, that Lady Deathstrike. Oh yeah. So $20 and it was $21 total, including shipping. First Daredevil Punisher encounter. Frank Miller, Klaus Janson doing the inks. And the interiors are actually Klaus Janson credited for doing the finished art, and Frank Miller credited for breakdowns, doing the plotting. And that's how Klaus Janson inks. It's a Roger Mackenzie story. Frank Miller credited. Really nice VF. So also online I got 2 issues of the first encounter of Daredevil with Wolverine. This is also the first appearance of the man that is the father of Yuriko Oyama, the man that's behind the technology for fusing adamantium onto someone's skeleton, in particular Wolverine. Lord Darkwind. That's wind with a D, not Lord Darkwing. Lord Darkwind. Out of Japan. His first appearance is Daredevil 196. Right here. He is very adept in hand-to-hand combat, specializing in various forms of martial arts. Although not to the scale of Wolverine or Lady Deathstrike, he is also an expert in Kenjutsu, the Japanese premier sword fighting technique. He is also extremely intelligent, having made the adamantium bonding process, and is most likely in peak human shape. This is per Comic Vine. Lord Darkwind, adding to the mystique of Wolverine's past. Of 1983. Do you notice the difference between the Daredevil issue 196 on the left and Daredevil issue 196 on the right? I'll give you a hint. His name is Wolverine. Yes, that's right. The one on the right is the Canadian price variant. Good job. Got that for $44 total, including shipping. It still has Dennis O'Neil doing the writing, with Klaus Janson doing the interiors. Pencils and inks, Klaus Janson. I got this one for $44 total, including shipping, and this one for $15.92, including shipping. First appearance of Yuriko Oyama. Yuriko Oyama, the daughter of Lord Darkwind. Writer Dennis O'Neil and penciler William Johnson. This is a Bill Sienkiewicz cover out of 1983. That's where Yuriko Oyama is held captive, and Daredevil frees her, and they team up to try and prevent her father from bonding adamantium onto the spine of Bullseye. So Frank Miller started, he was an artist starting doing Daredevil in issue 158. He didn't start writing Daredevil until the first appearance of Elektra. Frank Miller started taking over writing with the first appearance of Elektra, which would be Daredevil issue a 160, a 69, and psych. No, it was issue 168. Just couldn't resist. So here we got a first appearance of a Yuriko Oyama, soon to be Lady Deathstrike. Sequential Geek spending money. Yeah, this one was a lot cheaper. Feel some ripples here in the cover, but it's not such bad shape. Wow. Mike Mignola is the inker. So although Lady Deathstrike first appears in Alpha Flight issue 33, April 1986, a month later, in May 1986, is when we see how she receives the tech that enhanced her long finger blades out of the Mojoverse, thanks to Spiral and her collaboration with the Reavers. That's Riko Oyama, who becomes Riko Oyama no more. Her origin in X-Men 205 by Chris Claremont. So we got a Denny O'Neil first appearance of Riko Oyama, but it's a Chris Claremont story that turns her into Lady Deathstrike. Really dig this Carl Potts cover right here on the left. With a little bit of kung fu fighting. Daredevil issue 198. Dark Wind on the cover there for issue 199. What can I say but William Johnson doing the pencils, interiors, as well as the cover for issue 199, and that's as far as I go in my Daredevil back issue want list. I'm good now. I got both of those as one shipment, including shipping, for just over $10, basically like $10.50 essentially. What next? One more purchase I've got online on the eBays. Spending some money. This is the first Rick Veitch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles story with the 24th issue out of August 1989. Rick Veitch, if you see Big Elbow's channel, he's got the Roaring Rick's Rare Bit Fiends. It's a limited series under the King Hell brand name. I really dig this cover. This is one of my favorite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cover, if not the best one. I just think it's cool. It's a Rick Veitch cover. It's the first Rick Veitch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic. I got it in a 9.6 white pages. I paid a total of $157.50. And one of the cool things about this is, you got black and white superhero group, right? You can't tell who's who because they all got these headbands on that are done in this black and white comic. And then what happens when you get it in color? They're all red. I love that. This is so cool. So I did it. I pulled the trigger on it. I'm sticking to my at least 9.6 I did buy a couple of 9.4s recently. I'm okay with that. I'll live. In case you're wondering. But I'm psyched. I'm sticking with my don't go any lower than a 9.6, especially if it's something modern. And if you it's definitely classic superhero comics here. I just said that something that was breaking the mold, an indie comic from the late 80s. This is cover date August 1989. I just called this classic superhero. So back to what I was getting at though, this is just great cover. Yeah, great cover. All red headband. TMNT cover. So then today, I got up early. Kind of took it easy. About a half hour after Hall of Justice, Comics and Collectibles opened up just south of Cobalt Comics. So went there today, and I went there for 2 comics, and I ended up with that. You know, for some reason, I'm not so much of a fan of Frank Miller's initial Daredevil works, but a lot of the stuff from like the 180s. Here we got 190. His run ended with issue 191. That's right. This is the issue where he visits Bullseye. He's paralyzed in the hospital. He has his little game of Russian roulette that he plays with him. $15 near mint copy, direct edition. $5 for this. I'd say like it's like a VF plus. You'll notice the direct editions are more expensive. Direct edition near mint, $12. This is the Resurrection of Elektra. Cover date February 1983. So now I got Triple's newsstand, issue number 1, X-Men Alpha Flight. And I got 1 copy of Direct, issues 1 and 2. 2-issue limited series. Chris Claremont, Paul Smith. Yeah, another great aspect of this story, not just with Rachel Gray, but also reveal a little bit of more. They also add more to the mystique of Wolverine when he has that discussion with Jennifer Hudson. It's about his background, being associated with Alpha Flight, Canadian government. So. Those were $5 each. Yeah, well, I can knock all these off. Secret Wars, number 12. Why did I get just issue number 12? It's the last issue in the series. The rest of them are all banged up. This was the only decent newsstand copy that they had over at Hall of Justice. Yeah, nice spine action going on there. I think issue number 3 is the hot item right now. It's the first appearance of Titania and Volcana. Yeah. All right, so there's a nice newsstand copy of Marvel Superhero Secret Wars. The beginning of the ultimate franchise marketing campaign. The event. Oh yeah, the event before the event. Like I said, there was Marvel's Superhero Contest of Champions, that 3-issue limited series in 1982. And then Jim Shooter started working on that formula and birthed Marvel Superhero Secret Wars. This is cover date April 1985. And if I remember correctly, so this came out monthly. So when the first issue came out, you had this construct that appeared in Central Park. It was like a ring, this white ring, and a bunch of entrances to it, so that the heroes, any type of hero that would go and approach it, they would disappear. And they came back. They all came back. You know, Spider-Man came back with his black suit, but you didn't know how he got it. The whole story with Marvel's Superhero Secret Wars, you didn't know what the heck went on until you read the series. So as the series went by each month, that was that missing year in the life of whichever hero was teleported to this battle world, essentially, that the Beyonder created. So $10, really nice newsstand copy. What am I gonna say? I'm going at least VF. And what color are the pages? White. Nice. I don't agree with all the views from Comix Explained, but you gotta take what you can work with from a lot of these channels, right? And his review of stuff like Secret Wars and Marvel Superhero Secret Wars and just these large events are great. He does great rundowns here. This is really nice Mike Zeck artwork. Jim Shooter writer, Mike Zeck penciler, John Beatty inker. Tom DeFalco is the editor. Blade Runner newsstand, issues 1 and 2. This is $6, that's 3. So issue number 1 here of Blade Runner, that is a cover by Al Williamson, inks by Carlos Garzon. Issue number 2, this comic book movie adaptation, cover by Brent Anderson, but the story is by Archie Goodwin, this adaptation, with interior pencils by Al Williamson, covering the story of Rick Deckard, Roy Batty, Hannibal Chew, Gaff, Chris Stratton, and of course, Rachel. So this is a reprint of a reprint, I guess. This is just a third printing. So the first printing of the Blade Runner movie adaptation was cover date June 1982. That's from Stanley Presents the Marvel Comics Illustrated version of Blade Runner. And then you have the second printing, which is Marvel Super Special, number 22. Cover date September 1982. Both of those have that brilliant, amazing Jim Steranko cover. It's the adaptation of the Ridley Scott Blade Runner epic, originally released in theaters June 1982. This is for $1. Figured, why not? First appearance of X-Men 2099. Is that right? Oh, we got some stainage going on there. There's some gritty grit. There's something gritty. It was for $1. Oh, we got stainage right there. Dope. But it's a newsstand. Look at that. We got some ick right there. Little ickage. Not right there, though. Oh, that's a bummer. I knew it was too good to be true to get that for $1. I figured it was just $1 because it had the spine ticks. It's all right. Thank God it was just $1. X-Men 218. Yet another Art Adams cover. That was $5 there on the right. That is out of 1991. An early Psylocke image. Pre-Jim Lee Psylocke. Betsy Braddock, the sister of Captain Britain. 1987 book. Ann Nesenti's the editor. Chris Claremont is writing with Mark Silvestri interior pencils. Oh yeah, don't worry. That is Tom Orzechowski doing the lettering. Oh yes. I said Orzechowski, yes. Orzechowski, yes. Oh yes. That's right. I met Tom Orzechowski at the Michigan Comic-Con. The Great Lakes Comic-Con, actually, excuse me, up at Macomb Community College. The Michigan Comic-Con takes place in Detroit. The Motor City Comic-Con that was just going on, that takes place in Novi, which is like 20 minutes west of Detroit. Novi is in Oakland County. The Michigan Comic-Con takes place in Detroit, which is in Wayne County. I just remember thinking how Longshot had it made in this issue. Mark Silvestri doing Rogue, Dazzler, Betsy Braddock. Longshot's got it made. So following up my little hype craze going on with reprints of Steve Ditko, early reprints of Steve Ditko work, as well as Todd Mcfarlane work. Right, you remember these? Another classic image. Super iconic. Right? Peter Parker overcoming obstacles, perpetuating the struggle. The hero's journey with a constant flat tire, broken arm, disc girlfriend, sick Aunt May to always have to take care of. So, you know, she's always just like, always just about not able to quite take care of herself entirely, you know. Spider-Man was always out on his own. He had to go into New York City, figure it out on his own. He had to meet people out on his own. He didn't have some iPhone suit, spider crutch like they got today. That was like part of growing up, figuring stuff out, figuring life out, yourself out. That was one of the cool things, the metaphors of him figuring out being Spider-Man. He was that first teenager, that sidekick that was given the spotlight to become the headliner, the protagonist, the main hero. So we got OG Spider-Man by Steve Ditko, story by Stan Lee. Now, I think Steve Ditko's last Spider-Man issue was issue number 38. That issue on the right is Marvel Tales issue number 172, and that was published cover date February 1985. It's a reprint of Amazing Spider-Man 33. And Spider-Man issue number 33 originally came out in 1966. And on the left, that Marvel Tales from 1984 is a reprint of Spider-Man Annual number 2. So 29 years later, we have a reprint of Amazing Spider-Man Annual 2 here. This VF copy here for $8, and this one here is for $4. The bag does it justice. It's like a slight fold. It's what, fine plus, maybe VF minus. It's got like a slight, there's a spine tick there, slight spine roll, another spine crease right there, very light. It's not bad. White pages. Ditko doing strange. Ditko and strange. So moving ahead in time a little bit. This is Todd Mcfarlane, Spider-Man, issue 5. Definitely, it's got to be a riff off of this. Spider-Man 33. For the cover, Mobius doing Morbius. That is a really cool cover. Dig it. You can just tell it's Mobius. And just check out the anatomy on Spider-Man, just standing there. Either about to ambush or he's hiding from Mobius. Morbius. So this is a reprint of Amazing Spider-Man issue number 102. It's originally written by Roy Thomas with pencils by Gil Kane. They do reprint the covers for Amazing Spider-Man issues 100, 101, and 102 in this Marvel Tales reprint. $2. Now, are there going to be any flaws in this? Damn, because I already showed another copy that I got that was riddled with spine ticks. This one has a light, very light, man, I dare say not even color breaking crease. It's maybe a real small color break coming in there. Geeking out on that color break, damn. But the rest of this is so smooth. The pages are so white. Stan Lee presents Roy Thomas, Gil Kane, Frank Giacola doing the inks. that is my journey. Hall of Justice Comics and Collectibles today. Saturday morning. Went out there. It is 2:05 a.m. The morning of the 17th right now. Finishing off this vid. Friday. Started off at Cobalt Comics, thank God. That was like a godsend. Being able to chill out there. After that, kicked it with some peeps over at Vision Comics and Oddities. Picked up my mail. Enjoyed me some of that Rick Veitch. A little bit of Mobius. I went out this weekend to have fun. Just had a nice moment shopping, giving myself props. I be that Sequential Geek. That is my haul, y'all. Thank you very much for visiting. Much love. Stay safe. Peace. All right. And I'm out.